All right, so welcome back. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to use our jQuery knowledge to do the client side stuff. We're going to have to do a get and a post. We're going to talk about some things, but then the post is what we're going to do in this video. So go ahead and bring up the quiz page. In order to get to the quiz page, you're going to have to do the full, slash static slash MovieQuotes _quiz.html. That's where the file actually lives at in your folder structure. And so if you click on add quote now, you could try to add a quote and you click on add quote, but it doesn't actually do anything yet. So we're going to fix that. And then whenever you click on new questions, that's going to do a get request, and that doesn't actually do anything yet. If you click on reset stats, I think it actually already does stuff, but it's not much fun when you don't have any questions. So let's go in and let's write some things for the post. Let's also fix this. I don't like a user seeing the word static, right? Like I don't want them to see that. And what I want to have happen is I want to be able to click on quiz right here and just go to /quiz.html, and I want this to also load the page. Let's fix this first before we get into our post. To fix that, what we're going to do is we're going to go into app.yaml, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a special case handler for quiz.html. So what we're going to do is actually very similar to what the fave icon did. So I'm actually just going to copy the fave icon area. And if somebody goes to /quiz.html, it's kind of annoying. Periods you have to escape. That's just part of .yaml on the URL when you have to escape it. Whereas in the other lines, you're not required to escape it. So you can just say static MovieQuotes _quiz.html. And then that's the file that you're going to serve, and then you need to also say where the file is that you want to upload. So it kind of feels like you're saying the things a couple times. So what you're really saying is you want to say, if anybody comes here, I want to serve them this. And then also you have to make sure that there's something being served to that location. So it's kind of like you put it on there twice. I believe you can escape it down in this one. That's fine. Also, I believe you can start with a slash or not. That's also your choice. But by adding this to app.yaml, now if somebody comes to quiz.html, I should serve them this file, and it'll just kind of appear more seamless to my users. So if I just hit refresh, presto, I can see this page appears. One warning about using a trick like this is we've just kind of switched like what folder it's in, basically. So if your static file has a lot of relative links in it, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to fix those. Now, it turns out that's not a problem for us because we use absolute links everywhere. We always say /static to all our helper files. But just kind of a warning that this little trick that we just played, it only works well if you're using absolute links. All right, so that problem is fixed. The next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to look at kind of the structure of our JavaScript and how that's laid out. And our JavaScript is set up to where there's a main, right? So main creates an instance of this thing, and then it makes an instance of a MovieQuotes Quiz controller. Originally, kind of everything was in MovieQuotes Quiz controller, except for it just got too big, right? And so it needed to get some helpers. So I decided to break it up into two helpers. So there's kind of the stats controller, and then there's the quiz question controller. And it's pretty easy visually to see what these guys are doing. If you were to look at this, so the stats controller is kind of in charge of this area, and then the questions controller is kind of in charge of this area. And then if you look really closely, the average here, it's also part of stats. Whereas the main controller, he's responsible for, the buttons and then delegating information to his little helper buddies, right? So that's the breakdown. And so let's go ahead and start by opening up the MovieQuotes Quiz Controller. So he's in the static area, so MovieQuotes Quiz Controller. This is kind of the high-level guy, and these are the to-dos we're going to be looking for now. So you can see that there's a to-do for actually getting the questions. We're going to do that next time. And then if you keep scrolling down, there's eventually a to-do for doing an Ajax post to insert a MovieQuote. So all we want to do here is we want to copy in kind of our skeleton code for a post. So our post, it's going to need to know what URL to go to. So it's going to go to insert quote. It's going to have data to send. and then it's got a done function, and then it's also got a fail function. So hopefully you just copy that in. I actually typed it. So the data we want to send in this case is we want to send the values in those input fields. So we want to send the quote, and then we also want to send the movie. So I'm just going to go ahead and steal those. It turns out that we picked good and logical key names. We just picked quote and movie. And then we also need to send one more thing. We need to send the fact that we're using the Json API. And so if you remember on our back end, we just made this thing to where if you passed in the value JSON into the key API, it would give you a JSON response. Now, typically in this area right here, this is where you do something with the response. Now, it turns out that in this particular app, we're going to do nothing with the response, and that's actually okay. So we're just going to print it to the console log and then call it done. So to be honest, we should have just finished this because we've already written the back end. So we're ready to actually go test this thing. So save it up, go visit your page, do a refresh because we changed the JavaScript. We definitely need a refresh. Click on add quote, and it should hopefully work, right? So I'm just going to say quote from Ajax, and then I'm going to write the word delete me at the end of it. And I'm going to say add quote. It doesn't look like much happened. That's because we didn't do anything on this page, but there should be 2 records that it worked. One is we should have gotten a response back, which is great. And then the other is if we go look at the page, we can see that it did actually work. So you can see that it's really not that hard. We did an Ajax request with a post, and it added it just fine. All right, so that's it for this one. Come back next time, and we'll do the client-side GET request. See you then.